President last night bristled against the fact that many Americans have concerns about his age. I think to a question of one of my colleagues, he said, that's your judgment, suggesting it's the media's judgment. There's no shortage of published polls that suggest Americans have concern about his age and stamina, and it's been put in all sorts of different ways. So is the president not in touch with what Americans feel about this issue?
So, look, obviously when it comes to the report more broadly, you just heard from my colleague, Ian Sams, that part of the report we don't think lives in reality, and that's what he was speaking to, where comments were made in that report about that, obviously about his memory that we don't believe lives in reality. And no, I'm going to answer your question. Just give me a beat. I'm going to answer your question. When you have a president that has been one of the most productive, if not the most productive and effective presidents in modern time, that you would assume is a president that is indeed in touch with where the American people are, right? That would assume that the president understands what's going on around the kitchen table when Americans are sitting around the kitchen table trying to figure out how are they going to deal with the economy, how are they going to deal with health care. So in our opinion, in my opinion, he is very much in touch with what Americans are feeling out there as it relates to lowering costs, as it relates to making sure that we beat Big Pharma. This isn't the president who understands what the American people are feeling. Look, as it relates to his age, as it relates to what has been said in this report, it is something that we don't believe lives in reality in the sense of this is a president. I've known this president since 2009. I've known this president. He's been not just my boss, but a mentor to me. And no one in this building would say that what we saw in this report about his memory. Everybody sees somebody who works very, very hard, has spent hours with him, understanding exactly where the American people are and what they're feeling, and also how to deliver on those critical, important issues to them.
Your argument on the report and the assertion that it's gratuitous is well taken, as well as what you believe is his performance. I get that. Yeah. But he seemed to be playing with a different set of facts. The facts are that this is an issue that Americans are concerned about, and he's saying that it's just the media's judgment.
Right, but he's also joked around with all of you and talked about and said some things about his age in a way that he understands where people are. He actually said that when in his answer. He has also mentioned his old pal Jimmy Madison, right? He gets it. He gets how he's viewed. He gets what people see and what's written about him and what the American people also see. But there are other things to note, right? McCarthy, when he was speaker, said that he has found the president mentally sharp in meetings. There are stories like that from, as they're saying it quietly, privately, House Republicans and other Republicans in Congress. But there's reports from all of you who have said that they have interviewed some of these folks and have said the president is sharp. The president, when they have a conversation with the president, he understands the issue. I mean, we saw it at the last State of the Union. He was able to negotiate while giving a very important speech, about 90 minutes, to the world. Millions of Americans watch as he was able to negotiate with House Republicans in the room. So people see that also for themselves. They also see that for themselves as well.
So does the president feel that this is the result of Americans being concerned about his age is just based on a media narrative, and it's not based in reality?
What I'm saying is that he understands what people may think. He's actually joked about it. He actually has joked about it, saying Jimmy Madison and has said many other things. He says, I know people think I'm 40 years old. Like, he's made jokes about it. So he gets it. What I am saying in front of you today is that he has results. There are results. His record, the data shows that this is a president that gets where the American people are and has delivered in that way, whether it's the economy, whether it's health care, even on the global stage. What other leaders have said about him. Right? What he has been able to bring leaders together, more than 50 countries, to deal with a war, to be very clear, in Ukraine, where the brave people of Ukraine are fighting against Mr. Putin's aggression. So world leaders see it. Leaders on the other side of Pennsylvania, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat, see it. And so that matters as well. And that's what we're trying to say to you as well. It is that we have seen and we have heard from others that this is a president that has delivered, and this is a president that's going to continue to do so for the American people. Go ahead, Slim.
Thanks, Karine. You've downplayed concerns about the president's memories in situations where he's mixed up certain things. You've said it happens and it's common, but yesterday we saw the president again have a mix-up with the president of Egypt, with the president of Mexico. So how do you explain that? Is it not valid that voters would have these concerns?
Look, what I would say is this. That this is a president that has had relationship with world leaders for more than 40 years. He has. And at times, and I even said this yesterday, has he misspoken, as many of us do. I've laid out some examples of even Speaker Johnson just on TV, on Meet the Press on Sunday, who said he supports Iran when he meant to say he supports Israel. It happens. It truly, truly happens. In that same answer that he gave, he actually gave an incredibly detailed answer on the overlapping dynamics in the Middle East as he was responding to the question that he received from one of your colleagues. And look, I want to quote one more person, as I've been quoting folks today. Yara Rosenberg at the Atlantic said Biden has gaffe names his entire career. His entire career. It is not uncommon that he has done that, like many of us do. And he said he was clearly talking about Egypt and named el-Sisi and laid out his policy and the broader issues in detail. Twitter just isn't interested in that, right? And so look, this is a president who has the experience. You've heard me say this, he's been senator for 36 years. He's been obviously vice president for 8 and now president. He has these long relationships with leaders. I think what's important here is to remember is that when it comes to the essence of the issue at hand, he understands that and has dealt with that probably, better than any modern day president because of the record that we have seen, because of what has presented in front of him as we look at what's going on in the world, what's going on in Ukraine, what's going on in the Middle East.
How did the president react when he first saw the report?
I'm not going to get into private discussions, private conversations with the president. Okay.
Thanks, Karine. With concerns about the president's age, are there any plans within the White House to have him engage more with the press, engage more? He decided not to do the interview before the Super Bowl that many presidents have done. Has there been any considerations about revisiting that or other sorts of engagements? As you said, many people in the White House do not see the image of him that the report depicts. Are there conversations about trying to change that perception among the American people?
I mean, look, you saw, your colleagues were you in the room, Tyler, yesterday? Your colleagues and yourself were able to see the president and ask questions yesterday. He did that, I believe, if not the day before yesterday, he did that a couple of times this week, I think about 3 times, engaging with the press. It's just something that he does pretty often. And we're going to try and obviously pick moments. He's going to, on his own, have moments where he's going to want to walk over and talk to all of you, as he's done many times before. And we're going to continue, obviously, to your question, yes, we're going to find many different ways to engage with the press. That's something that we think is very important. It's important to take your questions. It's important to hear from all of you and hear directly what's on the mind of the American people, as well as what we believe is on the mind of the American people, and take questions. So that's not going to change. I don't have anything.
But I'm just wondering if there's been more conversation in the White House in the last 24 hours about a sense of urgency to try to get the president.
I hear the question, but he literally took questions from all of you 3 times this week. 3 times. Once when we were on the broad,
but just more broadly about getting the president out more to try to combat the idea that he has memory issues and is a.
No, but I hear your question, but we literally did. I was on the road with the president from Thursday last week until Monday evening. We went to Detroit or Michigan. We went to Michigan. We went to California. We went to we went to Vegas. The president has been out there, and that's something that we're going to continue to do. And so he wants to be out there to talk directly to the American people. You hear us say that all the time. And you've seen him do that throughout the month of January. And now, obviously, we're in February. We're going to continue doing that as we have been for the last 2 to 3 years. It's not going to stop.
Since my colleague referenced a question that we asked last night, the question was about voters having concerns about the president's age, and his response was that that was my judgment. It was obviously making a reference to public polls that are out there that indicate that voters do have this concern. So does the president not believe that many voters have this concern about his age?
I mean, the president's talked about it. He's joked about his age, right? He has joked about his age, understanding what voters might think. He has. He's done that pretty often. I think I think the other thing that we want to make sure that you all understand is that this is a president that also has delivered for the American people. That is a fact. That is something that we see in the data. That is something that we see in the policy, whether it's a bipartisan legislation that we've been able to get through that people didn't think we would be able to get through, whether it's as it relates to like infrastructure or the CHIPS and Science Act, real things that American people feel. And for him, that's what he believes is important to focus on, is what the American people need in the sense of issues that matter to them. And that's what he wants his focus to be. That's what we want our focus to be as well. That's what we're always trying to communicate with all of you. But he jokes around about it all the time. He makes jokes about his age all the time.
I'm just asking for clarification on why the fact that we brought up that concern prompted him to say, this is your judgment. As though there isn't
because what
that shows that voters do have that concern.
Well, I just stated moments ago. It is your judgment, right? In the sense of like that is not what we see, right? When we see what
it wasn't my judgment,
but meaning more broadly. I'm not talking about you specifically.
Yes,
more broadly.
I'm just asking: does the president believe and understand that that is a concern that voters have?
I already said he understands. That's why he makes jokes about it. He understands that. But what we are trying to say is, our judgment from here, what we see from this president is a president that is zeroed in and focused on the American people. When we see him working, he is focused, and we don't see what, for example, all of this was brought up by the report. We do not believe that part of the report lives in reality, and that is what we're speaking to. That is what we're talking about.
Do you think there's any risk to the president sounding like he's dismissing that concern when he has that kind of reaction to a question like that?
Look, the president is going to obviously speak for himself and lay out what he thinks is important to talk about as it relates to the American people. When he wants to talk about the economy, he wants to talk about health care. We are talking this week about gun violence, right? How do we prevent gun violence, which is an issue that is incredibly important to communities across the country. When you think about gun violence being an epidemic in this country, those are the things that he wants to focus on. Those are the things that he wants to make sure that the American people understand what we're doing to deal with those critical issues. As it relates to his age, he makes jokes about it. He does. You hear him make jokes about it all the time. He gets it. He gets it. But he also wants to make sure that we are talking about the issues that, and I talked about this almost starting this the briefing here, is what people really care about when they are sitting around their kitchen table. And that matters. We believe that matters as well.
And yesterday, when you made light of the president's verbal flubs, had you been briefed on the special counsel report or seen it at all?
Nope, not at all. And what do you mean when I made light of the president's verbal flubs?
Well, you made some jokes in response to questions about the president confusing world leaders with deceased world leaders. And
what I did was I tried to state very clearly that, and yes, I did it in a light way because it does happen to many people. And I actually talked about one of your colleagues that I do it to all the time. And so, look, I just want to be very clear. This is a president that is very much focused on the American people. He is very much focused on making sure what he was elected to do gets done. With the promises that he's made to communities across the country gets kept. So I just want to make sure that is made also very clear.
And finally, in response to the special counsel report, one of the president's Republican presidential rivals, Nikki Haley, has called for a mental competency test for the president. Is that something that the White House is actively considering as a way to try and put to rest some of these allegations about his memory lapses?
I mean, look, I'm not a medical doctor. So certainly I'm not going to stand here and make opine on tests or anything of that nature. What I can say is that, and I remember talking to I remember talking to the president's doctor last year when I was asked about a cognitive test when the president's physical came out, and he said to me, and I'm paraphrasing because this was over a year ago at this point, that because of the president's actions every day, what he deals with world leaders, the domestic issues that he has to deal with, he believes that shows, right? That shows that the president is very much active and understands what's going on, right? And didn't believe that a test like that was warranted because of just who he is as president of the United States and everything that he has to deal with. But again, I'm not a medical doctor. The president's going to continue to be obviously transparent when it comes to his physical. We were the last 2 years. We'll have one. He'll have one this year, and when the time permits, obviously, or when the time comes, we'll certainly share that. One more. Okay.
Thank you, Karine. If the special counsel says President Biden's got significant limitations on his memory, then who is helping him run the country?
The President of the United States runs the country. The Commander-in-Chief runs the country.
How can he be trusted with the nuclear codes if, I get that you're saying that nobody in the building would say that he's got an issue with his memory, but just a little part of what we get to see, he's made mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake on camera this week.
So I'm going to be very clear here. The reality is that report, that part of the report, does not live in reality. It just doesn't.
So the special counsel is lying about the president's memory.
It was gratuitous. You heard from Ian Sams, my colleague. It is unacceptable, and it does not live in reality. That is just the facts. And look, it is a closed case. That is what the special counsel said. And what matters is that the president in the last 3 years has delivered on the economy, has delivered on health care, has turned this country around after the last president left us with an economy that was in a tailspin. That's what we were dealing with. If you think about the world leaders and issues that have been going on in this country for the past 2-3 years, not in this country, in the world, right? When you think about Ukraine, the president was able to bring together NATO allies. They've been the strongest than they've ever been, and make sure that we are providing what Ukraine, the brave people of Ukraine, need as they're fighting aggression, Putin's aggression. And that is what this president has been able to do. His experience as former senator, as former vice president, and now president, has gotten us to a place where we've been able to turn things around in a way that we meet the needs of the American people, whether it's domestic issues or national security issues. And that is what matters. That part of the report does not live in reality. Bye, everybody. Have a great weekend.
When can we talk to the president's doctor?